Thank you so much for taking the time to join this conversation about the Victorian Circus and Physical Theatre Operations for Organisations funding category. Today is really an opportunity for us to talk in a little bit more detail about the opportunity and for you all to ask any questions that you might have in relation to this category. My name is Annette Madden. I'm the Head of Theatre here at Creative Australia. I am a woman in my 40s. I have dark brown shoulder length hair with fair skin. I'm wearing dark brown glasses and a black and white check dress. Thank you to our Auslan interpreters today, Jodie and Kelly, for being here with us. And I'd also like to hand over to my colleague Hannah to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Hannah Torrance and I work in the multi-year investment team here at Creative Australia. I am a woman in my 40s and I have fair skin and dark brown hair pulled into a bun. And I have dark rimmed glasses too and am sitting in front of a green panelled wall.
Thanks, Hannah. Just a couple of pieces of housekeeping. We are recording the session today so that we can share it on our website for others who might not have been able to attend. Please also, whenever an idea comes into your head or a question, please just pop it in the Q&A chat function. We'll be working our way through those questions as we discuss the category today. So, firstly, I'm just going to talk a little bit broadly about the opportunity. So Operations for Organisations is a program which offers grants of up to $300,000 in total to support 2 years of operations and activity. It is targeted towards micro and small to medium organisations working in the circus and physical theatre sector in Victoria. And applicants do need to be based in Victoria to access this opportunity. So whereas previously in an organisational program that we ran last year, an organisation outside of Victoria could apply if it was in partnership with or was providing opportunities and services to the Victorian circus and physical theatre sector. This one is different in that sense that it must be an organisation based in Victoria and working in that specific circus and physical theatre space. This opportunity closes on the 9th of April at 3 p.m. and it's for projects and activity beginning after 1 July 2024. So the 2-year program that you would propose as part of your application can either begin on the 1st of July 2024 and run for 2 years, two financial years, or it can begin on the 1st of January 2025 and run for 2 calendar years from that point. That will depend on your needs as an organisation and how you plan your year and your program of activity. I think we're super excited about this opportunity because it is really about providing some of that critical baseline support for small to medium organisations and micro organisations. It, of course, by supporting core operations, can therefore enable projects and artistic or collaborative opportunities. But in this case, it's really okay to be focused on what the kind of critical core needs for an organisation are and what that support then enables and unlocks for an organisation over a 2-year period. As I said, the total amount that can be applied for is $300,000. That is broken down into kind of, a maximum of $150,000 for each year. So you couldn't, for example, wait at 200 in the first year and 100 in the second. We do need to see that that kind of 150 for each year contribution. Obviously that is the maximum you can apply for. if your needs are different and you want to apply for less, that's probably unlikely, but obviously it's just the maximum amount that you can apply for. But really, we encourage you to apply for what you need in this program, and really kind of looking at how that 150,000 a year can support your organisation to have greater stability, and a core base from which to undertake its artistic programs and activity. Obviously, on the website, we've got full suite of the guidelines, which includes the criteria and FAQs about particular elements. Can absolutely touch on some of those points today, but that's going to be your best guide in terms of supporting the development of your application. And of course, we are also here to support any further conversations that might be really specific to your unique situation or your organisation, beyond today's conversation too. Hannah, have you got anything kind of in an overview sense that you'd like to add at this point?
So I've just popped in the chat function, the contact us link in the chat as well, and I'm also going to pop the guidelines in there in the chat. One, I can see that a question's come in. Should I just go straight to the question?
Go straight to the questions.
Okay.
Excellent.
So we have a question about good one, definition of an organisation. So organisations, as we it's the same definition across Creative Australia, all of our programs. An organisation is a legally constituted organisation that is registered or created by law. Could be an incorporated organisation, companies listed by guarantee, or government statutory authority, although that would be highly unlikely in this category, I would say, that latter. And they organisations that are not legally constituted are not eligible to apply for this particular investment category. So I wonder if the person who's asked that question, if they had anything else that they wanted to, speak to with that, then please do. But hopefully that answers. So it doesn't cover off groups of people. That would be, you'd be looking at the Victorian, the other category that we're running. Names just escaping.
Victorian, Circus and Physical Theatre Projects and Capacity Building for Individuals and Groups. It's a very long title, but it is what it says what it does. Exactly. So yeah, look, I think it's probably important to just note that we don't have a stipulation about the organisation needing to be a not-for-profit. We just have the requirement that it is a legal entity.
Yeah.
But yes, please feel free, again, if you've got particular questions about your own structure and how that works, then we're really happy to have a detailed kind of one-on-one conversation about that too. I can see there's another question, great question. How do you choose who will assess the applications? So as is all our processes for competitive funding programs, we will curate a panel of assessors to review and assess the applications. In this case, we will be looking to appoint a panel who have specific experience in circus and physical theatre, and also have making sure that we have a diversity of views included and a diversity of skills and experiences, and also ensuring that we have deep knowledge of the Victorian sector as well within that panel. Of course, we need to manage complex conflicts of interest in terms of where people may have connections to applicants that would be viewed more broadly as a conflict of interest, where that might exclude someone from sitting on a panel, or it might mean that they have to sit out. They don't assess a particular application and they sit out for that conversation. But the process is, in terms of ensuring we have the skills and experiences on any one particular panel, is very robust and goes through a rigorous process internally at Creative Australia.
So one slight difference with this category, that if you're familiar with our organisational programs, you may have noticed, is that the support material requirements for this category include a 2-year operational plan. So we thought we might just jump in, and we feel like this is something that people may actually have some questions about. So we thought we might jump in and have a little chat about this one. And that's, you know, you're very welcome to plug in other questions as well as we talk. But we just wanted to, just flag this. This is a piece of support material that that we'll need. It is it's an operational plan really for the 2 years that you're requesting the investment for. It should be a maximum of 5 pages, so a succinct document, and that's to be uploaded with the rest of your application. So this operational plan should reflect your key goals and objectives for the organisation over that 2-year period and how you plan to achieve them. We'd just like to stress that this is not a strategic plan. It's a much more, it's operational really. So we would like to see in this document a operational timeline, a staffing plan, what resources you require to undertake it, a top level artistic program, so that can be quite brief, but we still need to see across the 2 years what that artistic planning and vision will be, and then anything else that you feel is applicable to this document that will help us in understanding where you're going and how you're planning to get there. So
That's great. No, I think it's worth noting that we know that different organisations have different planning cycles, and different that the pattern of activity may be quite different across the 2 years, and that's okay. That you know, it's also okay if you have a sense of the type of activity that you might be undertaking, you know, in year 2. But you might not yet know the detail around, you know, the artistic content of that, or what the work is, but you know, you might be going into a new phase of creative development, for example. It's okay for those things to be placeholders, to be indicative of the type of activity without necessarily knowing all of the artistic detail at this point. It's really about that operational plan being able to augment what you've put and proposed in the application form itself, to give, I guess, the assessors an understanding of, you know, how you can deliver, you know, is this viable? Is there a clarity around the planning for those 2 years, and how the work will be undertaken? So hopefully that's given you a good sense of, I guess, how to approach that document. It's also worth noting that unlike many of our other project applications, there is a separate budget that you will need to download. And Hannah, do you just want to talk about the budget template?
So that's an Excel budget. You'll see links to it throughout the guidelines, and it's also linked through the application form. This is a 2-year budget, and it's not just relating to the investment, it's your 2-year operational forecast. And it would be for either the 2 calendar years or the 2 financial years, depending on when you select for your we've referred to it as your project period to commence. Please just make sure that your total ask in the budget reflects your total ask in the application form as well. That's something to look out for. And you have the opportunity there to outline all your projected income and projected expenses as well. The other piece of support material that's related to finances that we're requesting is either your latest audited financial accounts, if that's available to you, or the equivalent financial data. And please just get in touch if you don't have audited accounts to discuss what you can submit. We're quite flexible with that, but just have a little chat about it if that applies to your organisation. Seeing if there's anything else that would be helpful at this stage. We think that there may be questions around this, so please pipe up. If you don't feel comfortable popping them in the chat, then please do contact us via that link, and we can come back to you about your own specific organisational needs. That's totally fine.
Any other questions people might have at this point?
I wonder if we should talk about some of the sort of things that we expect that this grant might cover from an
Great idea.
I guess we view this as an operational, it says operational, that's what it says on the box. And I guess what we're really expecting to see are things like fees and wages for artists and arts workers, and core operational costs relating to organisations. So that may include rent or other administrative costs. There may be some programming costs there, but we're really expecting this, I guess the bulk of this and the focus of this is to build in that sustainability within an organisation so they can be paying their people and keeping their doors open for that 2-year period with that core.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that, when the assessors are looking at the kind of holistic budget, they're going to be looking at that viability piece. So, in an ideal world, there will be other sources of income, and they might be, some may be confirmed and some may not be confirmed, and that's okay. What we want to see is that there's a plan for how the organisation is looking to kind of meet its commitments from a financial perspective. It's absolutely fine to have all of the kind of artistic costs in those budgets. I think it's just about, we're mindful and conscious of the fact that it is often difficult to ask for those core operational costs because applications or funding programs are often geared more towards the project and the outcome. And obviously within this, we want to be able to get excited about the artistic offering or the community offering, or, how you're working, that the vision for what you want to achieve over those 2 years is still really important. It's then about, I guess, this demonstrating how this budget could really support the organisation across those kind of critical core costs to enable that. But it will likely still necessitate funding sources from other areas to unlock the ambition that's in the program itself. And there are other things like you might have professional skills development, built into some of your budgets. There could be activities that are about capacity building, obviously core costs around marketing and promotion. If you're in a presentation phase, being able to fund and support market development activity. We know that often that is a barrier for smaller organizations to actually be able to invest in, sending artists, or creative workers to markets and things like that, to be able to develop relationships and kind of further the reach of the work of the organisation. Acknowledging that this will be different for every organisation, because depending on the type of organisation that you are, some organisations are focused on making work and touring work and presentation outcomes, and other organisations are going to be more focused on community activity or engagement with youth, so they're going to have really different parameters, really different outcomes and ambitions, and that full spectrum of activity is really welcome to this program.
I think that answers one of the questions that popped in. Thank you for the one about market development activities. I think that probably what Annette's just said then covers that one off.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, it's really about what are the needs of your organisation for that 2-year period, and how can this investment best support the overarching goals in what, by applying it to whichever elements are kind of critical for your activity and the ambitions that you have at this moment in time. So yes, absolutely.
Will this grant be happening again next year?
Unfortunately, no, in the sense that this funding program is part of a strategic collaboration between Creative Australia and Creative Victoria for a 3-year period. So we have been working together throughout 2022, 23 and 24 to deliver some strategic investments and opportunities for the Victorian circus and physical theatre sector. But that is a time-limited investment. And so this will not, this program will not be repeated. It is a one-off opportunity.
Wondering whether something else we could touch on is the criteria for this category.
Sounds great.
Might be a good thing to, yeah. So the first criteria for this one is quality of artistic or cultural activities. So, I mean, this is a common criteria across a lot of our programs. It won't be unfamiliar to those of you who have applied to our investment programs before. But in this one, the industry advisors will assess the quality of the artistic and cultural activities at the centre of your proposal. And they may consider your track record and your operational planning support. You know, things to consider within this would be your vision, ideas, your artistic rationale that is being proposed in your application, the development of great artists or arts workers. And it's really looking across that full spectrum of why you're making the art that you're making. And we're looking at interest, you know, in this category as well as the diversity of the circus and physical theatre sector. So we're, you know, then industry advisors may touch on that, you know, that aspect of your application, which is if it's reflecting that dynamic sector that you are all working in. Yeah, and the timeliness and relevance of work as well. Any creative or community engagement processes or methodologies. Yeah, anything else that you might want to add to that one before we move on?
No, I think that's great.
I think the viability is the second criteria for this. I think that the key piece for this one will be that operational plan and that the budget that submitted as support material that will really reflect the viability of your application. So some of the things to, you know, financial health, income sources, understanding, of course, that some much smaller organisations may not have like a huge diversity of income, but reflecting, you know, that could also include things like in-kind or any sponsorship or, yeah, all sorts of earned income. Governance arrangements. I think that's, you know, please do refer to our guide on essential governance practices. There is a link in the guidelines to that. The capacity for your organisation to deliver what you're proposing and the relevance and timeliness of this opportunity to your organisation. How realistic and achievable your planning are. Payments to artists and the, you know, appropriate levels, again within the, you know, the context of your organisation, looking at the levels of payment to people, which of course will be in that budget as well. Safety and well-being of people that you're working with, and where relevant, evidence that you've considered and addressed access issues.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Do you want to go into impact?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So the third criterion is around impact. And I guess ultimately assessors are going to be looking at, you know, how does this proposed activity contribute towards building a sustainable and diverse Victorian circus and physical theatre sector? And there are kind of 4 points that they will kind of consider in that frame. One is around how is that contributing to increased diversity, and that could be in reference to artists, to key creatives, to programming and audiences. How it contributes to art form development, through a range of different modes of working, whether that's development, presentation, of work that is reflective of contemporary Australia. How it contributes to building capacity in the circus and physical theatre sector in Victoria, and how it might demonstrate collaboration and or leadership on key sector issues. Now, we're not expecting you to be able to kind of, address all of those things, but I guess there's some of the lenses that assessors will be looking at in terms of considering the impact of this investment to the organisation and how that has a kind of broader impact for the sector at large.
So we have had a question come in about how to include projected income activities in the budget that aren't confirmed before the application is due. So thank you. This is a good one. And you'll notice when you download the Excel budget that there is a little note at the top about budget notes. So please, in the application form, you'll see a little section, a little box, a text-based box where you can outline what is where income is unconfirmed. So that will be your opportunity to provide some more information. Please don't add tabs to the Excel document. We might miss them. So just utilize that budget note section to give us any more detail that you can't within that template.
Yeah, and I would say similarly with the application form, if you're proposing a suite of activity over the 2 years, the artistic program, in different things that might still be in negotiation or unconfirmed, you can just write that. Like, there doesn't need to be mystery about whether, it's like, we know that things are often in process, and we know that there are other timelines at play in terms of when programming opportunities are locked in or decided, and that's going to vary across the board. So don't be concerned that some things might be unconfirmed at this point. We also know indeed that having some funding can be the catalyst for being able to confirm something. So it's not a negative to say these elements are confirmed. These are still in negotiation or unconfirmed. I think, again, to Hannah's point, the more information you can give assessors about where things are up to, then that's really helpful to kind of, help them understand, and I guess it's about being able to determine that something is in process, or it's at a kind of very initial stage of conversation, or those sorts of things. So again, yeah, totally fine for there to be a mix of confirmed and unconfirmed activity, but just be as clear as you can, because what is difficult for assessors in these processes sometimes is where they just have questions and they're unclear if that's definitely going ahead, or if that's contingent on a particular piece of funding. So the more clarity you can give and the more information, that just really helps to paint an accurate picture of where things are at. It's probably worth us just touching on, Hannah, that there are some exclusions relative to this to being able to apply to some other funding programs if you are successful with this one. And this is, I guess, in line with our other multi-year investment opportunities. But I'm just going to pull it up in front of me so I make sure that I get it accurate. Let me know if you get there first.
Caught me off guard. It gets very detailed.
I know, but I think it's worth noting.
So you can't, yeah. So things like if you're in receipt of other multi-year investment from Creative Australia in 2024 or 2025, So organisations who are in receipt of 4-year investment, that would cover. It would also cover national training organisations funded by the Australian government. It's a very specific point there. Organisations whose core activity is not circus or physical theatre. Organisations who are not based in Victoria. To that end, international organisations as well, just being specific about that. I have a feeling though that you were referring to
That's really helpful.
something else.
But I also
About the rounds.
yes.
Yeah.
We're just going to double check that, and
Yeah.
then but essentially what we're saying is if you are successful with this program,
Yeah.
you will need to double check what you are then not eligible to apply for in the short term while you're in receipt of this funding, because it is a substantive grant amount. So we do have some restrictions on some other things, but for example, things like the international program, you know, they always have guidelines around what your level of investment from Creative Australia is annually, and there's a kind of threshold for that. So always just checking on each individual program what you might be eligible for if you are in receipt of this funding down the track.
I'm going to need to take that one on.
Yeah. No, it's all good. It's there somewhere in the guidelines, in the FAQs. I just can't find it right now. Of course I can't find it right now. But look, we've got another question, so we'll move on to that. What is the pool of money available to this grant round? Look, we don't ever publicly announce what the budget is ahead of you know, an assessment round. That's kind of across the board with all of our funding programs. We have a budget allocation, broadly speaking, that sits across, you know, all of the Victorian circus and physical theatre programs that we are going to be assessing in the coming months. And that budget is applied after the assessment takes place. So we can't actually give you a kind of concrete figure in terms of, you know, sort of how many applications might be successful in this. But certainly we believe this is an important program, and we are looking to you know, to support as many organisations as we can through this opportunity. So I guess what I'm trying to say, well, you know, I don't want people to go into this process thinking only one organisation is going to get funded. That's absolutely not the case. So yeah, we again encourage you to apply for what you need within the budget that is available for this program. So sorry, I can't answer that more specifically, but yeah.
I think maybe something else just to sort of put out there, slightly different to some of our other multi-year investment programs, is that this grant will be paid out in one single payment of the total amount that is being requested. And so I think for an organisation's cash flow and for your future, you know, planning, I think it's important to note that will be paid in this current financial year to that full amount. It will not be split over multiple payments or multiple financial years. So just flagging that.
And I would also just flag making sure that you don't have any outstanding acquittals, overdue acquittals, because that can affect your eligibility to apply. So make sure if you've got any outstanding acquittals that need to go in, that you have a conversation urgently with the person that's managing that contract, and talk to them about how that can be resolved ahead of the closing date for this if you're intending to apply.
And also, please, if you're not registered in the application management system Flux, please do get onto that, not only so you can see the application form, but just to give you some extra time around that. It does take a couple of days sometimes to register if you're doing it as an organisation. So just check out some of those things as well.
I did also just want to follow up on our prior point discussing unconfirmed activity or unconfirmed income sources. If if you do receive a confirmation for something that you have put as unconfirmed in the budget or in the program after the application's been submitted, you can just drop us a note to say that funding has now been confirmed, or that opportunity is now being confirmed. We certainly don't expect to get reams and reams of updates, but just sort of if there are critical pieces of information around confirmations that come through after the application submitted, you can drop us an email and we can raise that in the assessment meeting with the advisors.
So we'll be looking to notify applicants within that 12-week period of after submitting the application. We do work to 12 weeks, and where possible, we do try and do it in less time if we can. So that's something to bear in mind for planning as well. We have had a question come in. Could the funding be used for touring costs or other production costs such as remounts, etc.?
Absolutely. If that's what your organisation requires to facilitate the activity, if that's where this investment can be most effective, then that's absolutely fine. Again, it's just about how you talk about that within the program of activity, and operationally how you're going to deliver that. So, we're not really asking you to identify sort of budget line by budget line where our money will go from Creative Australia. It's really that overarching picture. So if the activity is about international or national touring as part of that 2-year program, then absolutely the budget should include the costs that are associated with that production, remount, travel costs, etc. But I think it's just about trying to shift from a mentality of a project application to a kind of broader operational. So it's that sense of, okay, over that 2-year period, how are we working? What are the activities and programs that we want to deliver over that 2-year period? And then what are all of the costs and all of the different things that are required to achieve that? We've had another question that says, will you be looking more favourably on orgs that demonstrate a long-term plan strategy for how they will leverage this opportunity into growth, multi-year funding, increased income beyond these 2 years? That's a really great question. Look, of course, there is always the hope that investment can support the opportunity to leverage additional support or can build sustainability into the future. But I think we are not necessarily expecting that all of those things can be possible in a 2-year period. So, yes, those things, I guess, speak to viability and the kind of being able to demonstrate that there's a long-term strategy beyond the 2 years can help, I guess, augment the argument for why this investment, and that the activity that has been proposed is viable. But I think we are being careful not to expect too much of what $150,000 a year for 2 years can unlock and achieve, because that will be different again in different contexts. So, for some organisations, this opportunity will be about being able to employ staff meaningfully on a secure wage for a period of time, and that hasn't been possible before. There will be other organisations that maybe have a little bit more of that kind of core organizational stability. And so what this investment will unlock for them is slightly different. So I think, again, it's about how is this investment relevant to the context of your organization and where it's at in its trajectory and its journey. And we will look at each one of those in their own individual context, because they are not all going to look the same. And this opportunity will unlock different things for different organizations. So I think, yes, of course, being able to think beyond the 2 years is a great thing to do. But it's also okay if these 2 years are about, well, we need to actually, have this investment in order to be secure and a bit more stable. And then let's see what comes out of that, because we might have a clearer understanding a year in or 2 years in to what's needed, or, how we've then been able to kind of leverage this opportunity into different ways of working into the future. It of course would be, I think, a really great outcome for organizations to be able to, over time, build their capacity, given we don't go into another 4-year investment cycle at Creative Australia until, that will be 2029 to 2032. That's a long way into the future. So I think, I guess I'm just saying, don't be too fixated on that really big picture long term, because we acknowledge this is a 2-year investment. It's 150,000 a year. Really, be primarily focused on what that can unlock for that 2-year period. And if there are kind of incredible flow-on effects from that, then that's amazing. But I don't want people to feel too heavily kind of pressured to kind of know all the answers to that now. There's some really great questions, so thank you. And I think it's super helpful, for people to hear these different things that people are thinking about, and no doubt they're kind of common threads for a number of people and organizations, and it's really great. So thank you. Keep them coming. Are there any other things on your mind, Hannah, that are important to share at this point? I mean, like you said, there's the other, as you embark on kind of starting to actually write the application, or you're sort of building the operational plan, or of course you're going to have more questions, and that's fine. Please feel free to reach out. So
if there's any other burning things that I could see jumping out at me. I think also, this is also hopefully quite useful for other people who weren't able to attend today. So thank you for those questions. And hopefully people can have a look at this and see if any of their questions have been answered as well. But if there's nothing else.
Oh, we've got one more thing. Given there are lots of things we could propose, is it wise to prioritize something that supports a longer strategy or building capacity of the org rather than a short-term increase in activity? Look, I think, I guess it's about thinking holistically about the activity over those 2 years. So I guess what we're asking is to give us that full picture of what year 1 and year 2 looks like. So rather than prioritizing any one thing within the activity that you're hoping to undertake, it's really like, this is the holistic vision for how we see the next 2 years playing out. So I think we want to hear from you what your organization needs. So I think in terms of whatever prioritization of activity you choose to lean into, it's really about what your organization needs and what are the opportunities over that 2-year period that that are going to be most important for your organization, for the artists. And you know, I think it can be either or both of those things. So really, I guess that's for your organization to determine what is the kind of critical focus areas over that 2-year period that you would like to talk to. But really, yeah, I guess please do give us the full picture. You know, it's not about just proposing one stream of activity. We want to see, you know, the kind of ins and outs of, you know, of all the things that you're doing.
And what that impact will be.
Yeah.
Really speaking to that third criterion, I think is really, really key in this question. I think that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That,
yeah. I think we've got 10 more minutes. Are there any kind of final questions that people would like to pose before we wrap up?
I might do, just while we're sort of sitting here, I might put some links into where you'll see the links to the protocols for First Nations, the cultural and intellectual property in the arts. There's, I'll put a link into that. Little handy things to consider. The Essential Governance Practice is a downloadable document from our website. It's not a link, I just noted, but you can find that it's under the viability section in the guidelines. And then that Excel template is also a downloadable document. Can our project start July 24 if you report on a calendar year? Yes, you can. We're not stipulating that just because you're a financial year organisation that you need to start in that financial year. If you are a calendar year, if you are operating as a calendar year financial organisation, you can still start in July. I know that sounds a bit funny and it's a bit of a head shift, but it's just to allow organisations who, if they need to start this straight away and they are able to, and their plan speaks to that, then they can start in July. It may suit an organisation for whatever reason to start in January, and I guess vice versa as a financial year. You'll notice in the budget that there are two options in the 2 years to either be projecting on a financial year or a calendar year basis. Did I answer?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. It's absolutely up to your organisation in terms of when it makes sense for the program of activity and the budget allocation to begin, essentially. But yeah, you don't.
Just because you're one, it doesn't mean.
Yeah.
It would be helpful if you tell us what you are, because when you're providing those that support material of either the audit or equivalent data, just so that we're aware of how that all, how it works. And I would imagine that, in your operational plan, that's something that you would mention as well.
Yeah,
please note it, but we are trying to allow for as much flexibility to allow for individual organizational needs here.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yeah.
Great.
And if you get into a bit of a tangle when you're trying to do that in the application, then just drop us a line.
Yeah.
They can be unwieldy.
I've just found that information that I was looking for earlier about applying to other other categories. So I am going to just talk to that quickly. So we've closed that off. So if you are successful with this category, you will not be eligible to apply for arts projects to organisations, the general category, in the September 24 application closing date. However, you will then become eligible to reapply in 2025. So it's just that one closing date, the September 2024 arts projects for organisations closing date that you would be ineligible for. So it's just important in terms of your planning that you couldn't be proposing in your budget that you would also get a Creative Australia grant in 2024 for arts projects for organisations to augment program activity. So as I said, other things like international, Playing Australia, those things have entirely separate eligibility. I'm just talking specifically about the arts projects for organisations category. Well, if there are no more questions, we'll just see if any final ones come through in the last minute or two. But otherwise, we might wrap up there. But thank you so much for joining today. It's been really great to answer some of your questions and hear some of your thoughts. And yeah, we look forward to follow-up conversations and being able to address any specific questions you might have that are particular to your situation. Thank you again. We wish you all the best as you embark on preparing this application, and we really look forward to seeing what comes in and the kind of incredible ambition of the circus and physical theatre sector in Victoria through this program. So thank you again. I think we will leave it there. Thank you again to Jodie and Kelly, our Auslan interpreters, and to my colleague Hannah. Thanks again. Have a lovely day, everyone. No doubt we'll talk soon. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.